The second day of the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank at Washington, D.C. has been a really busy one. But the good thing is it started on a very good note as IMF forecasts that inflation, global inflation may have peaked already, and so deceleration should be the trend. Now, there are also other conversations that concern sub-Saharan Africa and the G24. The reforms going on in the Bretton Woods institutions also made the topic for the day. The projection of the IMF shared at the World Economic Outlook is based on receding inflation numbers and brings it closer to central bank target, with growth projected to hold steady at 3.2% in 2024 and 2025. However, some low-income and developing economies have seen sizable downside growth revisions.
The progress on inflation has been more pronounced for advanced economies, and now we expect advanced economies to be back to their target sometime in 2025 for most of them. For emerging market and developing economies, there is more variation, and we see an increase in the dispersion of inflation.
Many of those low-income economies are in sub-Saharan Africa, reflecting a slower growth in a country like Nigeria amid weaker-than-expected activity in the first half of 2024. Although the country's GDP was placed at 3.1% in the second quarter of the year by the National Bureau of Statistics.
Nobody wants to borrow, nobody likes to borrow, but when it becomes necessary, it's something.
Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Waledu, suggests how developed economies can be more impactful.
The first port of call is concessional financing, IDA financing, for instance, from the World Bank. And what the developing world continues to call for is larger sums that can really make a difference, not just to be able to help a country cope with its immediate payment needs, but to have funds to grow the economies. That is what the fight against inflation translates to for the developing countries.
Perhaps the request of Mr. Aydun will be considered during the ongoing reforms expected at both the IMF and the World Bank.
Now they are in the process of consultations going around countries, going around the region. So I will say that at a minimum, maybe by next spring meeting, they will have an update on where they are in the process and maybe some final decision by the annual meetings.
The Bretton Woods institutions have shared plans to consult with member countries on needed changes to make them more relevant in a world where geopolitical tensions are affecting trade relations and macroeconomic policies. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.